In a controversial departure from standard law enforcement procedures, the investigation into a fatal shooting by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agent in Minneapolis has raised serious questions about use of force, jurisdiction, and transparency. On January 7, 2026, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a Minneapolis resident, during an immigration enforcement operation that drew hundreds of federal officers to the city. Videos captured by bystanders show ICE agents approaching Good's vehicle, a Honda SUV, which was stopped sideways in the street. According to eyewitness accounts and multiple camera angles, an agent tried to open her car door as the vehicle began moving, and another agent fired several shots into the vehicle, striking Good. Good was later pronounced dead at a hospital. Federal officials, including Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Secretary Kristi Noem, and President Donald Trump, characterized the encounter as self-defense, asserting that Good attempted to weaponize her vehicle and drive into officers. Noem even labeled the incident an act of domestic terrorism. However, publicly available video footage reviewed by journalists and law enforcement analysts contradicts key elements of that narrative, showing Good's vehicle moving away from agents and suggesting she was attempting to flee rather than attack. Experts have noted that the agent who fired was not visibly in immediate danger, a striking deviation from established police use of force criteria, which generally reserve deadly force for situations where an officer or public safety is in imminent danger. Former law enforcement officials have criticized the shooting as a violation of clear and plain police tactics, particularly the practice of firing at a moving vehicle, which is widely discouraged in police training because it often fails to reduce danger and can exacerbate harm. One of the most unusual aspects of this case is how the investigation is being conducted. Initially, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension (BCA) was expected to work jointly with the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) and the U.S. Attorney's Office to examine the shooting. The BCA responded to the scene and began coordinating investigative efforts in good faith. But later the same day, the FBI informed the BCA that the U.S. Attorney's Office had reversed course and that the FBI would lead the probe exclusively, barring state investigators from accessing vital case materials, scene evidence, and witness interviews. The BCA said it could not meet Minnesota's investigative standards without full access to evidence and thus withdrew from the investigation. The exclusion of Minnesota authorities has ignited a jurisdictional dispute. Federal officials maintain that state actors have no authority over a federal agent's actions under the U.S. Constitution's Supremacy Clause, which shields federal employees performing official duties. But legal experts say that immunity applies only if an agent's use of force was lawful and within the scope of federal authority, and that the state may still pursue charges if evidence shows otherwise. Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey have condemned the decision to bar state participation, arguing that an investigation without local input cannot be trusted. They, along with other officials, called for greater transparency and independent review. In addition to concerns about jurisdiction and evidence access, witnesses reported that emergency medical personnel were initially blocked from reaching Good's injured body. A man claiming to be a physician was told by federal agents to stand back, with federal vehicles reportedly inhibiting rapid arrival by county EMS. Federal policies generally require officers to render or obtain medical assistance as soon as practicable after a use of force incident. Whether that obligation was met and how the scene was handled after the shooting are expected to be part of ongoing investigations. The shooting has sparked protests and drawn comparisons to past high-profile lethal encounters between law enforcement and civilians in Minneapolis. Community members, activists, and national figures called for accountability and transparency, while some commentators and law enforcement analysts debated the legal interpretation of the agent's actions. Conversely, some voices, including media personalities, have publicly defended the agent's conduct, arguing it was justified under current law, though even these defenders suggest alternative tactics might have reduced harm.